Welcome to The Problem, a Lockwood & Co. podcast. I'm Caitlin.
I'm Alan.
And this week we're talking about the second part of Part 5, Dark Hearts. Finally getting to pick up where we left off from reading last week. Thank goodness.
With a mouthful of blood and the creepy crawly crawling away, and
I mean, that's not where we left off.
it is. Isn't it?
No. Oh, yes. The way you said mouthful of blood, I was picturing like blood dripping out of someone's mouth, like overflowing, and I was like
a ghost.
What is he talking about?
Lucy was chewing her tongue off.
Yes, I see.
Yeah.
The creepy crawl.
I don't know what it is. I guess it's the fetch.
It's gotta be the fetch,
yeah. By the end of this part, I was like, okay, creepy crawly equals fetch. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. My thought on it is that is its true form, and it's appearing that way to Lucy because Lucy hasn't really been thinking about Lockwood. Right? So it hasn't decided what to appear as to her yet.
That's interesting.
But Lucy is who it wants.
Or maybe it's like because she's a little bit special, right? So it's like...
Well, that's why it wants her, definitely.
Yeah. Like it can only come through to people as what they want to see. You know what I mean? But it can connect to her a little bit more directly.
But she does see it as Lockwood.
Yeah, later.
Spoilers. I don't know, whatever. Later. So, I don't know. That's my personal thinking, because she really hasn't thought that much about Lockwood in these chapters because she's been too busy thinking about how much she hates Holly.
Right. That's right.
And now we get to see all that explode. Yay!
Yeah, this is good stuff.
Oh, there's a couple lines in here where I wanted to reach through the pages and slap Jonathan Stroud, but we'll get there.
Oh, interesting. Wait, did I put these in wrong? I did.
You did. Yeah. Just so everybody listening at home knows.
Yeah. I put the summaries as the wrong chapters, so whatever.
Alan labeled it chapter 20 and 21 instead of 21 and 22. So here in chapter 21...
Who wrote this?
Holly and Lucy have a calm discussion, hug each other, and then save Bobby Vernon. And everything goes smoothly and to plan.
Yeah. The tea and biscuits.
Yep. And they remember to set off a flare when they find him, which was literally their only agreed upon plan with the others. Find Bobby, set a flare.
This is all written wrong. It's the wrong chapter number. It's the wrong description of what happens, because this is a disaster from top to bottom.
Yeah.
But it's also a relief.
Yeah, the chapter art is the cash register with the tape dispenser beside it, but I did not know it was the tape. Like, I was write down what I think the chapter art is before I read the chapter, and then come back with corrections if needed. So I wrote down cash register with something.
Oh.
And then later on
it's a gun. No.
It's the tape dispenser.
I think
a fancy one too, made of like stone instead of that black plastic that you have in classrooms.
Oh yeah, it does look good. And it's an older style cash register, I guess, but maybe that makes sense in the world of the problem.
Yeah, it looks very 90s, early 2000s cash register. Like there's a calculator in there, but there's no computer.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's yeah. That's right. Yeah, I think it keeps saying in the text, the North American text, desk. And then what I was hearing from the audiobook was like the till. And I was like, those are not the same thing. Like, why are you saying that?
Interesting.
Yeah, because I think of a till as this cash register thing. But maybe that's not what that means. I don't know.
No, that's a till. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they changed it to desk in here?
I think so. It was like
point this out to me when we get to it, because I don't remember my brain going, oh, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they're referring to the counter, but you would say counter.
Yeah, I don't know.
Weird. Anyways, so this is my problem. This is why I didn't think we were where we left off, because last week I kept reading for a couple pages.
Oh.
So my brain was somewhere else. I even think I made us talk about it a little bit.
I don't know. Maybe.
So that's where I was. Anyways, so we start off with Lucy having just seen the creepy crawly, as Alan calls it, and then checking with Holly to see if she has seen it. And Holly has absolutely not. She didn't feel anything. And I get that this is here to drive a wedge between them even more, but it does really juxtapose, like, whenever Lucy has heard something or seen something crazy, Lockwood is always there being like, yep, me too. That was bad. If not even worse, because he saw it, or worse looking to him, because he could see things better than she can.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That earlier in the book when he's like, she can't see the thing, and he's like, well, here's what it looks like, and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just makes her miss working with Lockwood even more, I would suspect.
Yeah. I thought it was weird because there was the physical spiders, unless that was also part of the apparition. I was like, you didn't see a big ball of spiders roll past Holly?
I think Holly just wasn't looking.
Yeah.
And the presence didn't affect her at all to make her look.
That makes sense.
And so then Holly thinks that Lucy looks bad and is terrified and keeps saying, you should sit down, blah, 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 blah. And I feel like Holly is genuinely trying to be nice here, but she just doesn't know or understand Lucy at all.
Yeah, yeah. And especially when they go back to meet the group, because
once they're back with the group,
that.
I don't think she's trying to be nice there. That is like, poor Lucy.
Oh, really?
No, I'm sorry. She's terrified. That's a completely different vibe.
You think that, how do you take that? Like she's telling the teacher kind of a thing, or just like trying to make her feel embarrassed?
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just being too Lucy here, because maybe she is still just trying to be nice, but the way that she says it is so patronizing. Like, I get Holly is older than Lucy by, I think, 2 years ish. We don't really get hard ages in these books.
Well, Holly's definitely 18. I think that's a good bit older than Lucy, at least 2 years.
So at least 2 years. But the whole poor Lucy's seen something. She is terrified. That's like speaking for Lucy.
Yeah.
Instead of, being like, Lucy saw something and then looking at Lucy for Lucy to give her account. So that to me feels genuinely patronizing.
There was, I get what you're saying. I feel like this is definitely motivated by Holly's lack of trust in Lucy. That, she's like, you're not going to tell people what's going on with you. Like, you keep all these secrets and that's putting us in danger. So like, I'm going to tell everybody.
She never thinks to herself that maybe Lucy keeps secrets from Holly that she doesn't keep from Lockwood and George. Like, why would that not occur to her? That maybe Lucy tells Lockwood and George more than she tells Holly, this person she has not known very long.
I wonder, now that you say that, I wonder even if there was ever like a separate, there's no way to know this, if there was ever a separate conversation between Lockwood and Holly where he is like, keep an eye on her, let me know, if she's like, sounds like she's talking to things or like tuning out, because I've been having discussions with her, but she's not following my instructions. Like, that would
be so terrible, but also the Lockwood that is in this book, who is truly the villain of it.
Right.
I can see it.
Yeah. That would be even worse, because then she's just doing what she's like supposed to do. And
I know that there is one very specific reason why Lucy leaves at the end, but also I think subconsciously there is like 10,000 reasons Lucy leaves at the end.
Oh no, she has to. Yeah. It's getting bad. The thing that I marked down about this, it says like right after the like, she's terrified. I am not terrified. It says, where the spectral chill had been, hot rage was now pulsing through my veins. And it's so like, when I was younger, we talked about like childhood trauma so much on this show.
Lockwood Cohen therapy.
Right. Yeah. I would have all these anger problems, and a lot of men have that anyway, because it's like the one thing we're allowed to feel.
Yeah.
And so like, but I couldn't understand, like, why am I getting angry all the time? What is that about? And so I would get really interested in like psychology and like what is the reasons behind all of that, blah blah blah. And ever since I found out this really interesting thing, it's like always changed my relationship to anger
Mm.
and how I read it in characters in fiction. And I felt like this was true to the thing that I learned. So the thing that I learned is that in your limbic system, like your amygdala and all this stuff that like controls your emotions in your brain, there's no biochemical difference between fear and anger.
Mm.
It's all psychological. So like it's purely based on like the way that your brain interprets the energy and how it's appropriate to deal with it is like your behavior and your experience. So like even though fear and anger feel different to us like as experiences, there's actually no difference. And once I learned that like every time I'm angry, I'm actually afraid of something, that like completely changed my relationship to anger, because I was like, well, what's scaring me? What is the thing that's like making me feel this way? And then that like the anger went away, because then I'm just solving a problem at that point.
Hmm.
And so like for her to be like, Holly's like, she's terrified. And she's like, I'm not terrified. And then she's like suddenly filled with rage. I was like, oh, yes, you are. Like, that's exactly how it works, because you like, you don't want to feel vulnerable, because fear is vulnerability. And like, that makes you a victim. And this makes you fight back. But it's all the same thing. It's all just
also, like,
mixed up in your body.
Quite literally, like we just saw her go through, she was terrified.
Yeah.
Like maybe she's not at this exact moment because she's, back with the group and that sort of thing. It also goes to show that I do think Lucy and Holly could be a really great team, because Holly could, if Lucy ever is terrified about something, she could be like, she could just say one thing and Lucy would snap right out of it. Right?
Maybe not a, like a dysfunctional team, but like a team.
Yeah. Once they got to a good place, it could work.
I feel like they do work together really well later in other books.
Yeah, once they scream at each other.
Yeah.
Even here, after the screaming.
Yeah, they do start to work together, even in this part, pretty well.
They work very similarly to the way that Lucy and George works, where they're still bickering, but they're doing it.
Right, yeah. It's really funny we've talked about this little part for so long, because like in this same paragraph, Lucy says, like, it wasn't strictly clear that she'd intended to have a dig at me, but I didn't care right then. So, like, it's even ambiguous to her. She's like, I don't know if she's trying to help or not, but I don't care.
It doesn't matter. She is talking for Lucy, which would be maddening no matter what the situation.
Mm-hmm. Especially to Lockwood, right?
Yeah.
That's the person you don't want. You don't want to appear weak.
In Lockwood's defense, he does immediately say, tell us, Luce, to hear it straight from her. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's nice. And then Lucy recounts what happened with the creepy crawly. And then, and she specifically mentions the spiders and that she's never seen or even heard of anything like that. And then Kipps and Lockwood kind of say, yeah, that's happened once or twice before. It's weird, but we've heard about it. And like, I'm sorry, there's documentations about spiders being like ducklings following a ghost. That's wild.
Yeah, it's very, very creepy. I wonder if they were all fetches, if this is like a feature or if it's just like a strong type 2. We've never seen this,
but also, why wouldn't Kipps and Lockwood know that if they know about the spider thing?
Yeah. All of those cases are bad. They're rare and bad, so that's good. Yeah.
And then Holly says that she thinks Lucy should leave and that she's in no state to go on. There have been 3 authority figures, I guess, in Lucy's life. Well, 2.5. One being her mom, who was terrible. The other being her previous boss, who was also terrible. And now there's Lockwood, who, like, that's the half.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And now Holly is like trying to be that for her, probably with good intentions, but immediately it doesn't matter what she said. Like, if you're trying to be an authority figure to Lucy, Like, there's a reason we have a most punk rock.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's not going to work out well for you. It's not the way to go about getting Lucy to be reasonable.
Yeah, this is the girl who bailed on her job where they were like, you should come in tomorrow and work on everything being fine. And she's like, well, I had another thought. And
That's the
moved to
TV
London.
show, I think.
No, that's directly from the book.
Oh, it is?
I had another thought. And then she just goes to London.
I rewatched the first 3 episodes the other day. Just like while I was playing some video games. And now it was a mistake because now it's so, I don't know what was what.
I mean, that first episode's very, very close.
It's true.
But I just remember that I had another thought line that's always stuck with me since the first book. Because I don't know, it's very good.
It's one of those, Stroud does that a lot where he just has one small line about something, but then it's a huge thing.
Yeah.
And it's well done.
This part, I thought, so like Holly's like, she should leave. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that she's looking out for Lucy's well-being as much as we just talked about the trauma of losing her entire team. And she is like, feels like she's in over her head. And she's like, as much as her and Lucy don't get along, she's like, if she leaves, I don't lose her. You know, like I think she's just in total kind of trauma meltdown at this point, or she's like starting to trip into that. And she's like, can't repeat past mistakes kind of mode, and trying to like, they should really all leave is honestly what should happen.
Well, I mean, Lockwood does agree with that. Maybe not. Is that here or is that later?
He says it. Well, once Kat comes and is like, Bobby's gone, then he's like, okay, we got to get out of here.
Yeah, but they can't because of Bobby. Very well written. Anyways, but that's what happens basically right away here, as like Lucy and Holly start to get into their big fight, but immediately Kat shows up with Bobby missing. Mm-hmm. So it kind of stops. And then we find out that everybody's like, it's just coincidence that they all met up because everybody's watches are going crazy. People have no idea what time it is or how long it's been, and the ghosts are just messing with them.
Yeah, this is a cool idea. It's, I guess they all went back because they were having bad experiences anyway. So they were like, well, it must be time to go back. But yeah, Kat shows up. She has lost Bobby. She doesn't want to talk about what happened, but they pull the story out of her that she was hearing Ned Shaw, or was she seeing him too, or just hearing him? I can't remember. Which is impossible. You know, like Kipps is like, that couldn't be, but this is like a clue to the actual nature of the ghost.
It says she just heard.
Okay.
And I wrote down here, now, you are much more magnanimous towards Holly than I am. Right. And this works for your interpretation also, because I was like, man, she just hates Lucy because she does not suggest that Kat Godwin should wait outside, should leave, who is probably even more messed up than Lucy here.
Kat seems at the end of her rope.
Yeah. But also that works for your interpretation where like she doesn't know Kat, she doesn't care. Right? Like if Kat dies, it's going to be like, oh, that's sad.
But another kid.
Yeah.
You know, it happens every day. I don't know that. I don't even think it's about caring about Lucy. It's just, I think she's just like back in the middle of, she's like, I could lose my whole team again.
Yeah, but then why wouldn't she say that? Why wouldn't she say, we keep saying Kat, but all the text here says Kate.
Oh yeah, you're right. That's true.
It's weirding me out. I don't even know what it is anymore. Let's just stick with Kat.
That might be a show thing.
It might be, yeah. I don't know anymore. If we cut Steve, like people call me Kate, so I don't want to call her Kate.
Oh, I see.
I don't actually care that much, but anyways, like why wouldn't Holly want Kate to wait outside? Then they're all a team here. Mm-hmm. It seems very pointed at Lucy, because Kate is way more messed up than Lucy is. Lucy pulled herself together and told Lockwood exactly what happened calmly. Kate here is like, I don't want to say, don't make me say. Like, if anybody should wait outside, it's her.
Yeah, and she's coming at him with a sword, and
Yeah.
she's like obviously freaked out. It's it's definitely like set up in a way. I'm really avoiding saying calibrated. It's really calibrated to be like, you know, the worst thing that Lucy can hear to like piss her off. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Lucy should leave the mission. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm not the weak link here. Like, I can hear things you didn't even notice 1,000 spiders rolling past. So the tumbleweeds of spiders out here and you don't see anything. Come on.
That is pretty funny, actually. Oh, Holly must feel terrible. So after Kat describes what happens, this is where I wrote down, there's iron in these walls. People shop here. What the fuck?
This place is a nightmare.
What is happening? People just shop here during the day. And it's this bad with all of those protections.
Do you think it's worse?
Work there.
You think it's worse because they're there? Like,
it's definitely responding to them, and like, but like, there's all those people there during the day, and I get that ghosts don't come out during daylight, but they have said that it feels worse when there's no sun coming in the windows. So it seems to be sun related, not daytime related, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And therefore, like, London is a cloudy place. It rains there a lot.
Yeah, I think they even said that. Like, if it's like late afternoon and there's a storm or something, they're like, we just leave. We just get out of here because it's bad. Like,
and I know that, like, these people have tensions running high, but have you ever been in a department store at Christmas? Tensions are high.
Right. It's not exactly the most relaxed place to be ever.
Right? I actually love it, but I'm weird.
No, I like to go to malls by myself with like no agenda and just like walk around and feel the energy, especially at Christmas time. I really like that.
When I was in college, I spent a Christmas break working for a department store, and a couple days I was just wrapping presents because they had it like by donation for some charity. And that was the best. I just stood there for 8 hours wrapping gifts. I love wrapping gifts. And because of where I was situated, I also kind of worked as the information booth. People just come up to me and ask where things were. It was so nice. I could do that for the rest of my life. I mean, it was too many people, but everyone was in high spirits. I don't know. It was great. I directed people. I don't think I was ever wrong. Good time. Now I sit at a desk, but I get benefits. So then they all decide, basically after Kate tells her story, Kat, whatever, Lockwood is like, okay, we gotta find Bobby and get out, because this is too much for us.
Well, they make a plan George and Flo show up.
Oh, George and Flo show up, yeah.
And they report a very similar thing, but Flo didn't go after the voice the way that Bobby did.
And George like threw a flare or something, a salt bomb, and got her back, right?
Right. Flo says, it was somebody dear to me and also dead. I felt a strong desire to follow the apparition, but Cubbins here threw a salt bomb and pulled me back. And Lockwood's like, great job.
Yeah, that's how the buddy system was supposed to work. Well done, you two.
Right. You guys did what you're supposed to do. Like, you didn't fight. You didn't decide to hate each other. You didn't abandon each other. So you didn't
like start walking in opposite directions like Kate and Bobby did. Whatever.
Right. And then George immediately is like, this thing is a fetch.
Yep. And Lockwood was getting there too, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
But George was more confident than Lockwood about it.
You ever heard of a fetch before this story?
I feel like I have heard of it before, but I like just in the way that I probably read it before, not that I knew what it was, if that makes any sense.
I think I know of them from like way, way back in high school. I read the Wheel of Time books, and one of the enemy types are like these eyeless things called Murdral that they call them fetch sometimes. And that's like a whole thing that Jordan has where he's like, these are ogres, but not quite. And these are, like that's his whole thing, kind of like doing a Tolkien thing. But I thought that he made that up. And then like years and years later, I learned, no, it's a reference to like a doppelganger kind of ghost or supernatural thing.
Right.
So usually you see yourself and not like somebody else, the way that Stroud is kind of calibrated it. But yeah, usually you see yourself and it's like, that means you're going to die. Like you see yourself in a crowd or something.
Yes, that makes sense. I have heard that before. I don't know if I've heard the word fetch associate, or maybe it's been a long time. I too have read the Wheel of Time books. I too was in high school. Yeah.
I'm just saying that I remember that I read that and I was like, wow, Robert Jordan has such a cool name for a ghost. And I like then I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. Yeah, that was not him.
I don't remember a single thing about those books, so. Except for the one scene that you misinterpreted. I do remember that.
The igloo. Oh my God. Yeah. I've always been dumb.
No one's going to have any idea what we're talking about. That's fine.
But yeah, so this is like, I like what he does with it because it's like, it's a thing. So if you're, into supernatural stuff, you'd be like, oh yeah, fetch. Okay. It's, it looks like it doesn't really do anything. It's just like, imagine seeing yourself walking down the street. Like that would really be creepy. And then usually you can't catch these things. Like you're like, hey, wait a minute. And then you can never catch up to it. And then it's gone when you finally, like you go around a corner and there's nothing there, but that's not what he's doing. It's like someone who's important to you or someone you love, someone you lost, you see them and then they're like, come over here. And then you fall down an elevator shaft or something.
Right. Sorry. I didn't mean to go blank there. I'm just thinking about, I feel like that is very similar to a lot of different either folklore things or just ghost stories or whatever. So it's a very common trope, I guess, where you see something and it beckons you and it kind of like ensnares you, but mentally.
Mm-hmm. This one's really insidious and it's like, it's fundamentally different than other ghosts that we've ever seen because they're always like themselves caught in some kind of loop. But this is like reaching into you in a way that usually only Lucy experienced. This is like her whole problem in this book, really, is like her connection with the ghosts leading her astray. That's what this thing is.
Yeah, like if everybody's having the same problems Lucy usually does, then Lucy's problems are 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Presumably. Which is probably why she sees it the way she sees it and is entranced by it the way that she is. And Holly, who is like the foil to Lucy, not affected by it at all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't see it. Now that you say that, I don't think that she ever sees any of like her old team who she lost or any of that stuff.
No. But like she does, it is said that her talent isn't as strong as the others.
Yeah.
But she has enough, She does have a reaction to the poltergeist, but I don't know if we're not in Holly's head, so I don't know if she's just like, oh shit, it's a poltergeist and then is scared, or if she can feel it.
Well, that's specifically what killed her whole team. So I think that's just like
that's true.
Her kryptonite. Yeah, so I don't know. This thing's really interesting idea. I love the idea of it. I really wish that it came earlier in the book. Like if the show did this, I would hope that they would move this thing up so that we could have it explored more. I don't know how you would do that.
That wouldn't work with the plot.
It's just an interesting idea, though.
The only way I could see it being explored more is to have it like haunting Lucy from afar.
Yeah, that would be weird. That wouldn't make any sense.
Her having like dreams about it or something. But like it has to directly lead into the end.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so they come up with a plan to go search for Bobby. Kate's going to join Lockwood and Kipps, and Lucy and Holly are going off alone again because, I don't know, Lockwood's trying to make them like each other, and he's chosen this extremely dangerous job to do it on.
He has the little talk with Lucy about it, right?
Yeah, so he says that they complement each other, and Lucy is like, we do not ever say nice things about each other.
That's funny.
Which is great. And like before reading this, the first time I read this book, I don't think I ever clocked that those two versions of the word were spelled differently.
No, me neither. I was like, what does he mean? In the audiobook, I was like, what?
I just thought it was one of those things where the same word had different meanings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because we have that. I cannot think of a single example off the top of my head.
It's like well, I guess it depends. Like live and live and things like that.
Yeah, but those are pronounced kind of related.
Those are pronounced differently.
Yeah.
The one that I always think of that's like this is like principal, like the person who's in charge of a school, and like I stick to my principles.
But those are spelled differently.
They are. That's what I mean. Like this two versions of compliment. Yeah. I didn't realize that they were like that, where you pretty much say them the same, but they're different. They're vastly different things.
Anyways, the more that we talk about this, just makes it seem like it makes me feel even stupider for not realizing that they were spelled differently, because maybe I'm wrong and there is no instance of a word being spelled the exact same way and meaning two different things. And like being pronounced the same way on like you said, live and live and read and read type of thing. But that's just, those do mean the same thing. They're just different tenses.
I think one that I can think of, but they don't sound the same, is like wound and wound. Right, but they're spelled the same. But I don't know.
That's closer, I guess.
They're very different.
Anyways, Lockwood says they make a good team, and then says, now shut up and get going. And it's like, okay.
They also Lockwood makes sure to remind everyone, like the 101 rules of ghost hunting, that like, don't let your emotions get too crazy, because that just feeds the problem, which will be relevant for the rest of the chapter.
So where do they go? So Lucy and Holly go off to search for Bobby Vernon alone again. And they feel even worse now that they've talked about the fetch and what it does.
Yep. They search all through their floor. Holly kind of gives up. She's like, we should go down a floor. And then Skull is like, hey, you can't leave him alone. He'll die. At like giving a clue to Lucy that like he is actually nearby.
He is nearby. And Lucy responds while standing next to Holly and just says, but he's not up here. We've tried everywhere. And then in my book, the Skull says, have you? Or somebody does, because the book did not italicize the words have you the way it normally does.
You're right. It doesn't. It's not italicized.
And
or is that reverse italicization? Like, have you?
Oh, interesting. Either way, I don't think this is anything other than like either what Alan just said or a typo. It's not important. But a part of me was like, did somebody else say? It's confusing, but also did somebody else say that? What's happening here? Anyways, so then Lucy just starts yelling for Bobby and thinks that he's in the elevator shaft, as Alan so eloquently foreshadowed.
Right.
And then Holly's like, he can't be in there. And then Lucy starts crowbarring the door open, and she's like, but Mr. Ackmere. It's like, stuff Mr. Ackmere. Yeah. He said this place had no ghosts. Shut up and help me shove.
That's not proper. Yeah, it's really good. This is how, like, you know, we just talked about like haunting rules 101, but this is like Lockwood and Co. rules 101 is like, you do what needs to get done to do the job, and like stuff the rest. Except that Lockwood is like lost his goddamn mind and is, for whatever reason, following the Fitzmanual to the letter lately.
He's the villain.
Yeah, he's the problem.
They crowbar open the door. Bobby Vernon is down there, not ghost touched, but very injured. So somebody's got to jump down and get him. Lucy volunteers, but Holly stops her. And of course, Lucy thinks that Holly's having a dig at her. And I guess from Lucy's perspective, it's a whole thing, but it is like her own insecurities from the beginning of the book coming back. It's hilarious. I mean, it's terrible, but it's hilarious.
Holly's like, one of us could slip in there. It should probably be me. And then Lucy's like, why? Why? You were looking at the width of my hips then, weren't you? And she's like, of course not.
But
You hold the doors open. You're much stronger
and burlier
than me. And you have huge muscles and wide shoulders and a weird face and a weird body, and you're disgusting.
Yeah.
No, like, what is I just marked this conversation. I was like, wow, this is not the time. This is like what I said. What is happening?
I do feel like it's one of those things where Stroud is trying to, have a light funny moment, except it's not funny. It's too real for teenage girls. I assume teenage boys also. I've just never been one, right? Like, it's just too real to start talking about how you feel about your own body.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come across as funny at all or like tension lifting to me. It's just like, I want to punch both of, well, no, I want to punch Holly here. Sorry. She's the one who's like, I'm dainty. I can do it.
It's very weird. I think she should be the one to go in there because of her medical knowledge. Like, that's her utility
she doesn't
on the team.
do anything other than try to lift, like the burlier thing. You could say, well, we're going to have to lift him up. Like, either way, it was going to.
But if his injuries were worse, she could have like stabilized him perhaps or something like that. Like, that would be a better reason for her to go in there first and then be like, oh no, I'm too weak to lift him. But Bobby Vernon, he's weighs,
tiny.
Yeah, he's tiny.
He's a piece of paper, so
yeah,
it's fine.
So
anyways, she goes in. Bobby's sort of semi-conscious and says that he did indeed follow Ned Shaw, quote unquote. Oh, but he says he actually saw Ned. Kat
saw him.
Only heard Ned.
Right. He had like a full on, like, and he even saw the elevator.
Yeah, he said it was all lit up and welcoming.
Right. So this thing is like powerful in different ways. It's not just hearing, like it can manifest visions.
So then as they're trying to get Bobby out, Skull chimes in and says, better hurry, Lucy, something's coming. And she once again responds out loud and says that she knows. And then Bobby's being like useless while these two girls try to push and pull him. And as much as we joke about him being a piece of paper, like a human body who mostly limp does weigh it. Like, it's difficult.
Oh, it's the worst.
Even if you don't weigh that much, there's like limbs and shit, like.
Oh, trust me. I have, 2 children. You like take them grocery shopping and then you're like, okay, we're going to walk out the door. And then, they weigh nothing. But suddenly you can't pick them up off the floor. They're like Jell-O or something. It's weird. I do love Lucy's like inner dialogue where she's like, he lifted a frail hand, a 94-year-old dowager summoning a servant to refill her cup of tea would have raised her arm more vigorously.
And then she misses it.
Yeah, she can't grab his hand.
Anyways, she grabs him. They go to pull him out. He gets stuck. And
on his utility belt.
Utility belt. And then like Lucy and Holly are yelling at each other about how to unstuck him. And Bobby's just silent during this. I went back to read this over again to see if it says that he had passed out again. It doesn't. He just says nothing as they argue over him. He says and does nothing. It's amazing. Like, it's hilariously... I don't care how useless, like, how hurt you are. If you're conscious, you're trying to scramble up. You're trying to help.
Or
but
like
apparently,
take off your belt, your own self, or so he's just like,
his hands are in Lucy's hands.
I guess that's true.
Right, so he can't do that. But like, he could be trying with his legs to put, like, I know one of them is, you have other muscles is what I'm saying. He would be trying to help.
Yeah.
Anyways, so then Holly has to awkwardly take off his belt, and then blah, blah, blah. Lucy pulls him up, and then Lucy has to go back and pull Holly up, which I did think was a fun reversal of when Holly pulled Lucy up, but that never really comes up.
Oh, yeah, that's true. She's not really saving her life, but yeah, there's some teamwork. Like, they played tug of war over Bobby, but like they got the job done.
So then they pull Bobby up and they lift him up to to like carry him out between the two of them. And then Stroud wrote, "It was a good thing it was him and not George," which is
yeah,
not funny.
Yeah.
It's just
A good fat
fatphobic
joke.
nonsense.
Right.
And I hate it. Like,
I agree.
He could have said anybody, because they've spent 3 books talking about how small Bobby is. So they could have said Lockwood or Kipps or Cat or anybody, but it had to be George because, of course, it's George. This is the bit where I wanted to slap Jonathan Stroud. Or, like, you could have said absolutely nothing and it would have changed nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's terrible, and I can't believe somebody didn't take that out and be like, maybe let's not make fun of the fat kid for being fat.
I noticed it too. I was like, oh man.
It's terrible.
They could have carried George anyway. That doesn't really matter.
Yes. Like, George is kind of short, so his center of gravity would be, like Lockwood would be that lanky, like, dipping in the middle. It would be so terrible.
Just dragging his head on the floor.
Yeah, exactly.
There's good tension through this whole thing because the ghost, whatever is coming, is like keeps getting closer and closer. But she doesn't know what it is. So that's very creepy.
Oh yeah, I took no notes over the next like 2-3 pages because I was just reading.
Yeah.
Like, it's all good stuff. It's Lucy and Holly kind of talking as they carry Bobby. I may have called him Ned a couple times. I don't even know anymore.
I make that mix up too with those two characters, which is weird because they're not at all the same.
We just don't know them, right?
Yeah, they're the boys on Kip's team, so I mix them up. But I kept thinking about the thing from the show where you had that meme of them trying to carry Lucy up the stairs. I kept thinking about with these two girls trying to carry Bobby. Like trying to go around coat racks and stuff. No, left. You're caught on that overcoat. Come on. The ghost is coming, Holly. Come on. So you can just imagine a lot of that.
As they're walking, they are talking, but it like just quickly devolves into sniping at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Snipping at it? However you say that word.
I've always said sniping. Yeah.
Sniping, okay. And once again, Bobby's just kind of there.
Yeah. Although he does try to get him, though. He's like, this is not really the time or place.
Yeah, eventually he does sort of say something, but I don't know. Anyway, so then Holly yells at Lucy for being patronizing, and Lucy's like, what? The queen of patronizing is calling me patronizing? And then they just sort of keep calling each other patronizing back and forth. This is the best argument. Like, they get nowhere. They're not really saying anything other than, you're the worst. No, you're the worst. It's so good. Like, it's terrible and bad. But it is that, like, tension that's been building over the whole book between the two of them. It does feel so good to just have it out and have them screaming at each other.
Well, this is what you've been waiting for the whole book.
I love it.
This moment. I think the first time that I read this, when I got to this part, I suddenly realized, I was like, oh, like Holly is like Lucy's Jungian shadow. And like the whole thing with like the ghost in the jar, being like her inner dark voice, and like all this stuff with like the tension between her and Lockwood and the fetch, like looking like someone who it isn't, and all of this stuff. I was like, oh, that's what's going on here. It's like all this deeper psychological stuff that we've kind of been talking about the whole time came from this moment, because the thing that they don't like about each other is the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like the thing that they are both doing. So it's not the thing itself exactly. It's the thing that they are actually repressing in themselves. And then that keeps triggering each other. Like, if it's what you've been saying this whole time, if they would have had this argument or had this talk when she started, none of this would have happened.
It's also, I think I've mentioned this before, how for me, and I presume for these two also, what I hate most about other people are when I see the things that I hate about myself in them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the people I hate the most are the people who do things or say things that I think or say or do that I dislike.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. That's
Or,
yeah.
like, I know the concept makes sense. I just don't know that I'm explaining it well.
Well, that's why that's why I said that stuff about the shadow. There's like, and like Jung's whole thing, he's like everything that you repress about yourself, or like your shadow is like all the stuff that you would never want to be consciously. You're like, I can't be that. Like Holly can't be messy the way that Lucy is. And Lucy feels like she can never be beautiful and put together and like organized and on time the way that Holly is. She feels like psychologically it's not possible. And
Yeah.
so those things for both of them are like the shadow of themselves. They're the thing that they're like most vulnerable psychologically to. And you put them together and it's just like oil and water. Like they can't get along. They are the opposite of compliments, Lockwood. They're like,
But also, like, they both hate how patronizing the other has been while they're actively being patronizing. Like, neither of them is wrong in this fight. Both of them have been extremely patronizing to the other. Like, we haven't gotten Lucy's in the text, because obviously Lucy isn't going to call her own behavior out on herself.
oh, like her, yeah, that Lucy is patronizing.
Right? And then, so when Holly's patronizing back to her, she hates it even more because she knows she's being patronizing too. And she doesn't
but
like
she's
that
like
about
covering
herself.
that up from herself. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's really good. It feels very real. It's messy.
Yeah.
And it is not the time or place, but it is the time and place.
Yeah. And Bobby's, I'm only half awake and probably a bit delirious and was just in the middle of a dream about a goldfish. But even I know this isn't a good idea. And then Skull, on the contrary, you've waited long enough for this, Lucy. Don't forget the coat hanger, Garrett. It's an option. How do you say that word? Garrett?
Yeah. Garrot. I don't know.
I don't know.
How French do you want to be about it?
Oh, you know how I feel about the French.
I know, right?
That's going to be great to leave in.
There's a really vulnerable moment here with Holly, since I'm the Holly defender on the podcast.
Yeah, go ahead.
That I felt so bad for her, where she's talking about like so many days I could hardly bear to come in. I almost quit a couple of times because of the way that she was being treated by Lucy. And I just think about like her, like she left Rotwell because of the bad fit that she was in. And she even talks about like how much she hates Rotwell himself.
Yeah.
Because he's like a terrible person. And yeah, just for her to come to this place and be treated so unwelcomely and patronizing
again,
and all
though,
of that stuff.
I don't think that's necessarily, I don't think it's all Lucy's fault. Like the way that Lockwood messed up the hiring of Holly, it really just, like, at the end of that not first chapter, but the first chapter where we meet Holly, Lucy even says, okay, well, I guess I'll just give her a chance. And then immediately, like, there are no chances.
And Lockwood won't talk to her about it either.
Yeah. And so I just, like, I'm sure Holly blames Lucy when it's like, could you just blame Lockwood, please? He fucked up.
The reaction that Lucy has to this, I think it's really interesting. And I think it speaks to what you were saying, that like you fight with people who kind of like uncover things in yourself that you don't want to be there. She says this thing. I feel like this is really telling on herself for Lucy, because I don't think that it's true, but she wants it to be true. She says, I was happy in that hellhole. I was happy with the way it was, but she wasn't happy. Like we know that she wasn't happy because she was so frustrated with the distance between her and Lockwood. And she was like trapped in this weird fantasy zone with him where she feels close, but he doesn't feel close to her. And he won't come any closer ever since the room with Jessica stuff.
But
so
also, like, in
those
first couple chapters before, like, yes, there's the stuff with Lockwood, but there is also that first job that we see them on where they're kind of messing up, but then when they all come together at the end and it works, and Lucy's just like, yeah, we were good. So she did have those moments of feeling like everything was good, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you're right.
But
I
was
can
it
see
really
why,
good?
Yeah, I can see how Lucy tricking herself.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think she was a little bit in a fantasy because, like, what choice did she have? But, like, Holly, like, really messes up the fantasy. It makes it impossible for her to stay there because Lockwood's like, we must congratulate the most valuable agent, Holly. And, like, it's just impossible to trick yourself into being like, me and Lockwood are super close after that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, it was never quite the thing that she thought it was. And that's not Holly's fault, but Holly is the thing that, like, uncovered it for her.
Yeah. And then Bobby pipes in and says, can't you give each other girly smiles until we get out of this place? And
Jesus, Bobby.
What?
Jesus.
I'm going to blame the head injury because that's the stupidest thing somebody could have said there. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like where you see a random girl walking down the street and you're like, honey, smile. Everything's going to be okay. Just please, a meteor strike that person down from the sky.
I will say, I did want to say, Lucy calls Holly like a prim, uptight little school teacher. And maybe in her soul, that really, really hurts Holly. Because she responds with, well, you're like a stupid little dog. And I do feel like that's a little bit worse than what Lucy said. But maybe not to Holly. Maybe that, like, maybe that's something she's been accused of all her life and she hates it.
I think she just tried to say the meanest thing she could think of.
That's terrible to say to somebody.
Yeah, that's not nice at all. You're not even a human being.
Yeah.
I like how the voice actress plays that particular set of lines because it almost feels like the way that she does Holly there, Holly doesn't even know what to say that would be bad enough to, like, clap back. And she's like, you're like a stupid dog. Like, she's, like going through a lexicon of words and insults. She doesn't even know what to say.
And then, this is where Lucy starts blaming her for being all like Rotwell and that she should just go back if she loved that. And this is where it comes out that Holly didn't like Rotwell. He was disgusting and blah, blah, blah. And that Lucy is just the same because she couldn't have cared less what happened to her at Cotton Street. And Lucy's like, that's not true. How dare you say that?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we come to the crux of their issue here because Holly says, then why didn't you show it? And it's like, because that's not who Lucy is. Like, how long have you been in this house? Lockwood and Lucy do not show emotions. Like, not real. Like, they don't show vulnerability to anybody. Or at least they try their best. Why? Especially on a job. Why would you think that Lucy was gonna be all, oh, I'm so sorry for you? Like, I get where Holly's coming from here, but also, who did you think you were talking to?
Yeah, it's sad.
Anyways, but this is where Lucy says, it all happened to me too. I lost my team, they all died, it upset me. That's why I didn't say anything. I don't like to bring that up. And then Holly's like, well, I didn't know that. And then, well, it's my business. And then, I actually really hate this. Holly says that she knows that Lucy went into Jessica's room.
Yeah.
And I don't like this choice by Stroud. Because A, it doesn't mean anything. It never comes up again. It's really just so that Holly can have a good clap back here, I guess. I don't know if I've ever said that out loud.
Yeah, I've corrupted you.
Back.
That's good.
Gross.
That's good.
I guess what I'm saying is, in a couple chapters, Lucy tells Lockwood that she did it, and I would have preferred that she did that without.
Oh, like the worry of this?
Yeah.
Being there? Yeah.
Like, I genuinely don't think that that's why she tells him later, because that's when they're having their big heart-to-heart, and I genuinely do think that she chooses to tell him just to have everything out in the open, but I do wish it had happened without this, because we'll never quite know if she just wanted to tell him before Holly could.
Yeah. Yeah, there is that. But she didn't tell Lockwood, which is also kind of interesting. If she knew.
But, and again, we don't ever explore that. Like, we never come back to this.
Yeah.
So I think it was just weird to put in here.
It's to make the argument come to a particular point, and then we switch to the ghost, because like everything stops here.
Yeah, absolutely. But I feel like
I think it's like you said, though, like he wants her to, like, Lucy lost the last move, if that makes sense of the argument. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
like,
he could have written something else somehow. I don't know what. But like, I'm not an author, or I'm not the author of these books. It didn't have to be that. It could have been something else. Yeah.
It feels really objective, right? Because like everything else is kind of her opinion, and like you should be more polite, or you should do that. Like you're saying, like you should act out of character because that would make me feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
But this is just a solid fact about the world that like you broke into the forbidden room, and it's like, I did. That's true. But they don't really unpack it.
Yeah, and it really just exists there so that Holly can win. Right, and I just don't think that that's good writing.
Yeah, it's an interesting point.
Because it never comes back.
I think I had in that same exact spot, I just had another like thing where I was like, oh yeah, the fear and anger duality, because it says I took a deep breath, then chest painful with rage.
Yeah.
And she's just so afraid because they're taking each other apart here. So I totally didn't notice the thing that is true that you're saying. So I don't have anything useful to say about it.
But it doesn't matter, because that's when the tape dispenser at the cash register starts moving on its own, and eventually after that super creepiness, the skull says, "Oops," and Bobby says, "Now you've done it." And we've spent an hour talking about just this first chapter. So that's great.
Well, I mean, that's why I broke off last time where we did, because I was like, this fight is like it in the book. This is...
Yeah, that's true. We've been talking about this fight all throughout, so...
Yeah. This is a real climax. There's like a series of good emotional climaxes in this book, and this was one of them.
And then, genuinely, I love chapter 22. The summary, whatever. Lucy and Holly carry Bobby back to the entrance where Lockwood fails to save Lucy again. Great. The chapter art is just a whole bunch of knives.
Yep.
So they hide, they like duck down behind some aisle stuff, and immediately after that fight, Lucy and Holly work great together.
Right.
They got all the crap out, and now they are a team.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying everything is good between them right away, but like they're not keeping it all in now, and they're immediately a team.
I think they're also bonded by the like mutual consequences of their actions. Like
and the terror. And I love the moment where Holly is like, oh, I'm possibly jumping way ahead here. Oh no, it's right there. Where Holly's like, no apparition. Oh, so it might just be and Lucy jumps in, a poltergeist. Holly, yes, it is. And then immediately Lucy's like, but it's not going to be like Cotton Street. This time's going to be fine. And I love this bit because, like, just not that long ago, we saw Lucy being terrified. But as soon as somebody else is more terrified, that switches off for her, and she's like, I'm in charge. I got this. I will get us out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, and also, I'm like that too. Like, I have a lot of fear and anxiety about things, but if somebody is more upset than me, I can turn that off and be like, okay, I got this.
I'm just thinking back to like a couple episodes ago. You're like, I'm not a nurturing or supportive person. I'm not there for other people. So it's just funny that you say this.
Okay. I'm not like, I don't take care of people, but like one time at a job that I was working at, there was a dead mouse. And normally I would be like, I can deal with a dead mouse. But the person, I was only there with one other person, and she was freaking out. And I was like, don't worry, I will deal with the dead mouse. And I dealt with the dead mouse. And to this day, I'm just like, I do not know how I dealt with that dead mouse.
I can be there for others when. Like I think that's a real thing.
Yeah.
That's totally a real thing. Oh, so this reminds me that like way back in the first book, you talked about this book, I've been thinking about this for this whole argument and stuff.
Okay.
Have it in my back pocket. So you said that a lot of fans are like, how do I say this? This is like one of these logic things that would be like on a college entrance exam or something.
Oh, okay.
So it's like George is to Lucy as Lucy is to Holly.
Oh, yes, I see.
That a lot of fans feel like that is a dynamic, and you were like, but that's wrong, because in the first book, while George and Lucy don't get along in many ways, they do like have a good enough relationship where they can argue and then make up with each other after, like, say terrible things to each other and then be like, are we cool? We're cool. Everything's cool. And Holly and Lucy never really get to that point in this book, even though they cooperate here. But this is like an emergency, like you're saying.
Right,
like,
yeah.
There's dead mice everywhere. So like, when you said that, I was like, yeah, you're totally right, because like I'm a spineless coward, and I was like, I'm not going to stand up for what I believe in.
Or maybe it just wasn't the time to have a Holly discussion in book one.
Maybe. But I don't know. I have felt this way through the book. Not that that relationship is necessarily exactly correct. But that I think you're supposed to notice the dynamic of how unwelcome George made Lucy feel, and realize that Lucy is being very unwelcoming to the new person through this whole book, and being like, are you being a hypocrite, Lucy, a little bit? I definitely had that thought in this book. I don't know how you feel about that position anymore, if you still stick by what you said.
See, the difference is, from my perspective, that George and Lucy always just had it out when they would just say mean things to each other and be okay, very much like siblings.
Yeah.
Right? And yeah, it took them a bit longer to really get one another, I guess. Again, the TV show is smudging this all up, right? Because it's been a while since we did book one.
Yeah. Well, they go out for pizza in the show, and they're cool after that, basically.
But like, I don't think George ever made Lucy feel the way Lucy makes Holly feel, like she might quit. And I'm not trying to say Lucy's worse. I'm just saying it's a completely different dynamic. Because, again, George and Lucy wouldn't hold back from each other. They were just...
I think that's right.
Sort of peck at each other and still be good on a team activity, and still have each other's back. And not that Lucy and Holly like want like pain for each other or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's almost the opposite, because like they were very real with each other and raw, and like it's the opposite with Holly and Lucy. They're like fake with each other, and it makes it worse because it just builds up.
And I don't maybe I was gonna say, even in like book 5, I don't think I get that sort of sibling dynamic between Holly and Lucy.
No, it seems way more mellow at that point. I don't know.
Like, not that I just mean, I don't know that they're like, I'm not saying that they're less close than the rest of the team. They definitely 100% get to a point where they are a team, they are family. But I don't know that I get sibling dynamic between Holly and Lucy. I get more just really good friends. Yeah,
it just depends on what you mean by that, because like when people say that, I feel like what they mean is like you would
I mean healthy siblings, obviously. Like, not like good people, healthy sibling relationship.
Yeah, I guess when people say sibling energy, I think what that means, at least how I take it, is like you would like needle that person and insult them, and then like, but then everything's fine and cool because like that's a part of your relationship. And you would never, I don't think that Holly and Lucy can do that to each other because of how it started. They can't, that's not a place they can go.
The thing about siblings is that you've already said the most terrible things that you ever can to each other, and then immediately had to have dinner together. Like...
That's funny.
So as you're like teenagers and then adults, you don't need to apologize. You don't need to, like, unless somebody goes real off the deep end. But you know what I'm saying. Generally speaking, you can just say things that you would never say to anybody else ever. And it's not even that they're good afterwards. It's that you were good the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not like you need to recover or, you know, or check in or anything. No, you say the most terrible things and then you watch a movie together or you go to the mall together or whatever. You're good because you've already tried to murder each other when you were 5, right? Like nothing's worse.
I feel like that's true about Lucy and George for sure.
Yes,
that
100%.
When they argue, it's okay.
Yeah, they're still good.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just not the way Holly and Lucy are at all.
That's really well put. Yeah, I can understand what you're saying. I would say that personally, I think my relationship with my siblings, I'm the oldest of a brother and sister, but they are like 5 and 6 years younger than me. And that I have never felt like when people talk about like, oh, you know, sibling energy, I've never felt that way about my siblings.
That is why I specified a good, healthy sibling relationship.
I don't like to think that it's unhealthy, but like, I feel more like they were my kids almost, if that makes sense.
That's unhealthy, my friend.
I guess that's true.
It's a different type of unhealthy than what you think I'm saying, but it is unhealthy. Yeah,
because like I care about them, so I'm like, that's not unhealthy, but like it was bad for me to be co-parenting my parents and raising my siblings. That was not a good position to be in.
Yeah. So, like my sister was 4 years older than me, and she once abandoned me in a park.
Nice.
So she did not feel like she was parenting me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't even remember this, but it haunts her to this day that she's like, you could have just been taken. And
that's funny.
I don't remember this at all.
It doesn't matter to you.
For context, she was going over to a friend's house and my mom had forced her to bring me. And so she just put me on some swings somewhere and left me there.
Nice. Yeah. That's older sibling energy. That feels like
100%. Yeah. So this was in the 90s. This was normal shit in the 90s.
Oh, yeah, man. I know. Yeah.
I'm saying for our listeners who I think might be significantly younger than us.
It would be like horrified. Like, what do you mean? You were allowed to go on swings? Those things are dangerous.
You're just allowed to go to your friends' houses alone? Like,
alone? Without a play date? Nobody knew?
I assume I just spent a couple hours on the playground by myself having the best time.
Because you don't remember. So
I don't remember it at all. Good. So it wasn't traumatic for me, but it haunts my sister. And more to my point, I bring it up around her all the time to make her feel bad.
That's funny. That's really funny.
All right, so poltergeist. We get like a quick poltergeist lesson. They are blind, and they don't have like a manifestation, so they can't ghost touch you, but they're kind of worse because they're everywhere, and they can move things the way other ghosts cannot. And so they have to get out to the stairs quickly and quietly. Yeah,
they can't fight back because there's not like a particular ghost you can blow up or something like that. I really like the description, one of the descriptions that we get of how the poltergeist feels. It says, "It was very quiet in the room now. True, the psychic echo of our argument rebounded between the walls, on and on and on. Invisible lines of power thrummed in the room, taut as piano wire, heavy with built-up charge." So that's just a cool description of the poltergeist is just like bad vibes manifest.
Oh, and just because I mentioned it at the beginning of the episode, I do want to make sure that I say that when they parted from the team, literally the plan was find Bobby, set off a flare. They found Bobby. They did not set off a flare. They just argued about how to rescue him.
Yeah.
So like nobody knows where they are. Nobody knows that they've got Bobby. So other people could still be searching for Bobby. Like, true. I just said the word Bobby so many times that it sounds really weird to me now.
Now it's meaningless. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
Just call him Ned. I like this. So now that the poltergeist is here and things are getting very creepy, I love that Holly says, so the Fitz manual says the first thing we have to do is establish a type. And she's like immediately going back to that Fitzmanuel mentality, the safe, knowable world that she is just not in anymore. Like, like Mr. Aikman said, don't open the elevator. The Fitzmanuel says we need to do this. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
this is not actually really helping you. And that's the only thing she can do is go back to the rules.
right. But this is before they have the conversation where they call it a poltergeist, and so almost immediately they're like, "It's a poltergeist, Holly. We're gonna be okay."
She knows
Holly
what it
doesn't.
is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
He's in
yes.
denial.
So yeah, then they have to pick up Bobby and walk to the stairs as quickly and quietly as possible. And they sort of start to do that. And then Skull is like, well, this is exciting.
Really
I almost
shitty.
think you might make it.
Yeah, Lucy is worried. She has like a cool world building freak out here where she's like, can the other ghosts hear the ghost? And then eventually he's like, don't worry, this thing doesn't know I'm here. We're like, we can't.
Yeah, we just keep to ourselves. We don't like to interact.
I'm just fucking with you specifically.
Yeah, and he does also say, I call this a nice refreshing change. You can't talk back. Or reach around to turn my tap off. Means I can tell you what I think of you without you giving me any lip. It's great.
That's great.
And then, yeah, Holly makes a noise. And then everything, like the pile of papers that the poltergeist is moving suddenly stop. And then, they have that moment, like, that is in every horror movie everywhere they freeze and, like, try not to attract attention. And then Skull's like, no, you're okay now. Maybe it's gone. And then he's like, I was just kidding. It's everywhere. It's all around you.
You've been swallowed.
Over there. Yeah, you're in it. It's so creepy. Oh, he's like, truth is, it's everywhere. It's right on top of us. It coils around us like a snake. We're all inside it. It has already swallowed us whole.
Ugh.
Wonderful. Thank you, Skull.
Yeah, I like how that is also like symbolically the exact problem between Holly and Lucy, because like the more you try to repress, like she's trying to repress, like maybe the poltergeist is over there now. But you're like in it, you're like swallowed by it. The more you try to repress, like don't think about how you're in the poltergeist. That's when you're going to be thinking about how much you're in the poltergeist. Like don't
purple
think
elephant problem.
Yeah, that's been the whole Holly problem is like, don't just be nice to her. Just get along. And it's like you're repressing telling the truth to each other. And that's the sickness in the relationship. I do like that Lucy says to her a little bit earlier, like you were saying, like, this is a poltergeist and we're going to get out of this and it's going to be okay. It's not like with your old team.
Yeah.
She also says to her the thing that she said halfway through the book. Holly's like, I can't do this. It's impossible. And she says, Holly, we just have to do our best, which I feel like is that mantra that lives in Holly's heart. Like that's the way she deals with the world, is like, I just have to be my best. I just have to do my best. But this time she doesn't use it as a weapon against her. She's saying it as like, you can do this. You do this every day.
Right.
Like, you can be your best and we can get through it. So I really like you said, the way that they're cooperating now that the crisis is happening.
I like it. Eventually they make it through the doors to the stairway and they sort of take a moment to rest. But like as they're resting, Lucy's like, we can't stop here. We got to move. Pick them up. Come on. And then she's like, just do it. It's great. No, it is though. I'm not even joking. Like Lucy sort of becomes a leader here, which we don't ever see much from Lucy.
That's true. Yeah.
Like she's really keeping Holly together here because she recognizes that she kind of has to.
Yeah, but you're right. She is giving her strength. She's like, you can do it, Holly. Not like, oh my God, why are you such a waste of space?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You're
and
no
I do
kind
think
of field agent.
Had they not just blown up at each other, I do think it would have gone the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
And even like when she recognizes that Holly's kind of tired, because Holly's been walking backwards carrying Ned, and I think now they're going down the stairs and going backwards. That really sucks. So at one point, Lucy's like, let's swap. I'll go backwards. And then Holly's like, no, I can do it. So then she's like, well, we'll just go side by side then, which is probably more awkward in carrying him, but is better because they can both face forward.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I realized that she was walking backwards. That makes sense. I think I imagine that she was like carrying him with her, facing forward, but like with her hands inverted or something like that.
Well,
Which
that
would be awkward.
Yeah, that would be terrible.
Yeah.
So then they do hear Lockwood and George a ways off, but Lucy's like, don't answer them, keep silent, because the poltergeist responds to it can hear.
The opposite of the plan.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody know we have Bobby.
But again, they could have done that before they knew there was a poltergeist. Anyway, I'm never going to get over this. They did nothing. Ever. Eventually, they're going through the kitchen aisles, and the kitchen stuff just starts attacking.
There's also the moment. Why would you stop there for one thing? I was like, no, don't stop here. This is the most dangerous place. Haven't you seen Evil Dead 2? But there's also the moment, we talked about this last time, where the head of a mannequin turns slowly around, fixing us with its blind, bland smile. I was like,
after this, though, because first Lucy's like, oh, look, colanders. And then something slapped me in the face.
Literally just a slap. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it just like keeps happening. I like to picture a spatula.
Well, she says it's just the ghost itself slapping them. It's not objects.
Yeah, I know. But just because he mentioned that they were in the kitchen area, I pictured this stuff.
That's
anyway, so like Holly also gets kind of attacked and bad things are happening. And then, they keep walking and there's, like you said, there's the mannequin. And at one point there's knives, which is the chapter art. And I think Lucy sees the knives and she's like, well, we can't go that way because that would be dumb.
Yeah.
It's really good.
They do manage to get out of this whole place and get back to the great tree, the artificial tree, Autumn Ramble, that was set up.
Before all that, Lucy starts just arguing with Skull out loud, and Holly is like, what is happening here? Like, who are you talking to? And Lucy says, no one, you. The stupidest thing she could say. But yeah. And then eventually Lucy says, oh hell, all right, I'll tell you. It's an evil haunted skull that lives in my backpack. Happy now? And Holly's like, well, yes, it explains a lot.
Yeah. One of the most underlined things in the Kindle edition.
Yeah.
Good joke.
And then, of course, Skull is just like, what are you doing? Just telling people about me. How dare you?
I thought we had something going here. Like,
yeah.
It literally doesn't matter, I guess, that Holly knows about this.
Not right now, anyways. No.
It's nice that the truth gets out, though, too.
The truth, and also, what am I trying to say? It's a good example of how letting Holly in and just telling her the truth, like you said, immediately solves the problem. Like, they were angry at each other, and then Lucy just tells Holly what it is, and then Holly's like, okay, great, that's all I wanted, thank you.
Yeah, now I can understand and trust you instead of worrying that you're crazy.
Yeah. Anyways, then yes, as you said, they eventually get back to the tree, which has been destroyed because it was Chekhov's tree.
Don't destroy that tree.
Yeah, don't touch the tree.
The tree is being destroyed, which is great.
And we find that the rest of the team has set up like an uber iron circle right at the exit. Mm-hmm. And the floor is starting to break apart in front of it.
Yep.
So there's like a hole, so the rest of the team can't get to them, except eventually Lockwood's like, well, screw this, and jumps over the hole to come help them carry Bobby.
The one thing that we know Lockwood is good at is jumping across big distances.
Yeah.
To save Lucy.
He goes to help them. Oh, and at one point here, Lucy heard the fetch call her name again.
Yeah.
Oh, and saw the creepy crawly version of the fetch.
Mm-hmm.
So then Lockwood jumps across, gets Bobby, and gets him over to the other side, and then helps Holly across, and then is just about to help Lucy across when everything goes crazy with the poltergeist, and the floor falls under Luce, and Lockwood is blown away somewhere else. Lucy doesn't even know what happened to Lockwood, and the backpack with the skull in it gets caught on something and breaks away, and Lucy is just falling off into the depths.
I feel like when it's just him and her after he's like helped throw them across the hole or whatever, and he looks back at her, he says, just you, Luce, and his eyes sparkled, he held out his hand, and then like everything explodes, because the real, like we've been saying this whole time, the real thing is between him and her, and like that's the last thing that she has to face. And so like that's, symbolically it's why everything explodes. Because...
And also like I was saying, this is probably where the fetch is like, oh, this is how I get at you.
Yeah. That feeling that she has being with him.
Yeah.
And probably that emotion probably gives a big dose of, whatever the poltergeist needs, psychically.
Yeah. So everything goes crazy. And also it deserves pointing out that all this has been happening, but they have not found what is causing the Chelsea problem, which is why they are here.
Yeah, I mean, Lockwood's plan here is to get Bobby and leave. It's not to solve the problem. He's like, this is too big. Like, we can't handle this.
Yeah. So, like, it's not even that they can't find the source of the ghost, because that's not even what they were there to look for.
Mm-hmm.
It's that the ghost is too much for them to get through to find what they were actually looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So that's wild. And now Lucy has fallen into presumably the old prison that is presumably beneath Agnes. All right, so best joke. I mean, worst joke is the fat joke, obviously.
True. We haven't had a worse joke in a while.
Best joke is either something Skull said or, the haunted backpack thing that Lucy just yells, especially in front of Bobby, too. Although Bobby's kind of in and out, so they could convince him that he heard nothing.
So, yeah, some of the stuff that Skull says is pretty funny. Like, unless Holly trips and drops little Bobby and his head knocks on the floor with a whooping great thud.
I love that even...
Like a tufty coconut.
Even Skull calls him little Bobby. Great. Yeah, like there was a little bit of tension busting in here, but mostly it was just terror and arguing. But
I like that Bobby Vernon joke where he's like, guys, I'm only half awake and probably delirious.
Yeah, and I just had that dream about,
goldfish.
Goldfish.
Yeah. But this is not a good idea to argue right now.
Right. The goldfish dream, that's me. That's my favorite.
That's pretty good.
That's good. Also, I've kind of been there. Like, I was hit by a car one time.
Ugh.
And when I was in the ambulance, I was mostly fine. So I was in, like, the chair in the ambulance, not, like, on the gurney. But I fainted because I faint all the time. And when I was out, I had a weird dream. And I really specifically remember waking up in an ambulance and thinking, no, I want the dream back. I choose not to have been hit by a car, actually. So yeah, I like really identify with Bobby there.
Bobby's like, I just want to go back to the fish, guys. Please.
Give you the goldfish. Most punk rock. Honestly, I know I've talked about it a lot, but I think it's Lucy taking charge when she realizes that Bobby's useless and Holly's terrified. And she's like, okay, well, we're a team now, and I'm in charge of it, and we're getting out of here.
Yeah, she does step up. Yeah, I agree, I guess.
I can't really think of anything else. Like, it's not very punk rock, but...
Well, I think especially with the way that Holly is so, like, rules-driven through the whole thing, because that's, like, her way to cope. She's like, we can't open the elevator. We have to do this step by step, blah, blah, blah. And Lucy's like, nope, we're ripping out of here. Let's go. Like, buckle down, do it. We got this.
To be fair, were some things different? I could also see Holly calling Lucy on going into Jessica's room. That can be a little punk rock.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's like follow the rules, man. Like that's the forbidden room. Why did you go in there?
I guess I mean more like if I'm looking at it from Holly's perspective, Lucy is her senior at the company or whatever, right? Who she believes has a unlimited in with the boss, basically, right? Mm-hmm. That Lockwood will forgive Lucy anything. So to call that particular coworker out on bad behavior, like that's how I'm thinking of it from like a corporate.
Yeah, that's true. She is whistleblowing right to her face and being like, I know you did a bad thing.
That type of thing. So in that way, it is like, I'm sure for Holly, that was very difficult to call her out on.
Yeah.
Do I think it is objectively punk rock? No. But
yeah, it's also like the climax of the argument for her. Just like it's telling that it's the last bullet she puts in the gun, so to speak, Even though
it literally has nothing to do with the argument. Whatever. It's fine. It's literally just, you did a bad thing.
You got to win those arguments, man. It doesn't matter how you do it.
That has nothing to do with me. Whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of anything else. Maybe just screaming at each other in a haunted building, because why not choose that place to have your big argument?
Oh my god. Well, it's gotta be that way.
Yeah,
It's totally the right choice. It's just crazy.
it is. But yeah, I think that's that.
Only 2.5 hours. Good job.
I mean, 1.5. It's been almost 1:40. It's going to be 1:40 by the time we're done.
It's fine. The floor's clean.
So yeah, let's wrap this up. If you want to tell us anything about Holly and Lucy's argument and Bobby being there for it, you can contact us on Twitter at Lapa Podcast, or you can follow me on Instagram at Inferior Kate Reads.
You'd be like holding up the Hollow Boy and being like, "This book's okay, I guess."
I posted about all the books when I first read them.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to repost.
No
For my
reposts.
rereads. I try not to. Well, sometimes. I don't know. But also, to solve my problems that I've been talking about in the last 2 episodes, I realized I basically said the exact same thing on our... In fact, if you could edit that a little bit, that'd be great.
Oh, did you? I don't know.
About reading bad books. But now that I've said this, maybe you can't. Anyways, because like last week we recorded, I did it, and then I edited our week before that episode. And I was like, oh, that's exactly what I just said.
Oh, that's funny.
It was great for me. Anyways, so
That
this week
happens all
I've
the
been
time.
rereading some favorite books. So I'm much happier with my book choices this week.
If you want to reach out, please send your email to contact@hollowedgroundmedia.com or visit our contact page, hollowedgroundmedia.com, and then scroll down to the bottom where the little form is.
And remember to always have it out with your workplace enemy at the worst time imaginable.
Yeah, we need to have a talk.
Not a talk, we need to scream at each other.
Scream at you.